Okay. All right. Let's run this thing back here. Here we go. All right. Here we go. Salute to NBA Nation on this Thursday evening. The trade deadline is over, and we're here to break it all down, man. CP the franchise in the building. On the other side, my friend of the program. He's the current host of B-Ball Radio with the legend Bobito Garcia, former executive producer of Showtime Basketball, man. You could catch him on the Anything is Possible documentary featuring Kevin Garnett. Returning to the show, our guy Eric Newman is in the building, man. So lock in, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. This is an NBA report, KnicksFanTV simulcast as well. So make sure that you are subscribing to both channels. And let's get into it, man. Action-packed NBA trade deadline. Certainly one to remember. So we're going to break it all down, and let's get right to it, man. Eric, how you feeling, man?
I am well. I am still catching up on everything and still trying to make sense of it all. And of all the deadlines, this one will go down as historic for many reasons. There have been deadlines where there have been more deals. I was actually just flashing back to my Bleacher Report days where there were like 7 deals in the last 45 minutes, and we're like piping out content to old school Team Stream back in the day with the whiteboard and making sense of everything. But I don't think we've ever had so many impactful moves for the present and the future at one deadline. So thrilled to be back on with you, my man, and let's dive in.
Yeah, let's dive into it, man. You know, the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes is over. Jimmy, this was last night, man. Jimmy Butler traded to the Golden State Warriors with Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, Andrew Wiggins. Ultimately, some of these guys in terms of Anderson and Wiggins ending up with the Miami Heat. And also another 2025 first-round pick protected and a second-round pick. What you think about this move, namely Jimmy to Golden State?
Well, first of all, let's have some appreciation for Dennis Schroeder. This guy's had his moments in the league. Obviously, he had those comments last week, and then I think he got traded, 2 times this week?
Like
three
times?
Because,
twice. Because
he just ended up, I'll look in a moment, but he's no longer with Utah. He ended up elsewhere. But he's a very capable player. He keeps being put in these situations where, he's a lead guard on a team that doesn't have a chance instead of like the role he had in Oklahoma City where he was a 6-man spark plug. But all Dennis Schroeder joking aside, this deal for the Warriors, and I think this has been the thought now for the last season and a half. Clay goes to Dallas. You still have Steph at the back end of his prime. How are you going to maximize his prime in a Western Conference that keeps getting more and more competitive? Well, they just made a huge swing in an attempt to do so by adding Jimmy Butler, extending him 2 more years. It gives them obviously another capable veteran, another capable closer, but also a guy who, let's be realistic, is not the same player he was even in 2022 when he was carrying the Miami Heat to within 1 game of the NBA Finals, in 2023 where he helped carry them to the NBA Finals in those epic series against the Celtics. But Jimmy Butler, a happy Jimmy Butler, in the right role, in the right environment, is going to be a very effective player. So kudos to the Warriors for not standing pat. You had to do something. Obviously, we heard the talks about Durant, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit. But if you can't bring KD back, and that's the package you're getting to land a Jimmy Butler to extend this Steph Curry greatness in terms of being a real contender, then it's a heck of a deal for them.
Yeah, and I put that out there on Twitter. I said, look, for the Dubs, I like the deal. And people are like, what do you mean? It's Butler. Listen, they're keeping Steph, obviously. Steph is going to be there. He's signed for the next 2 seasons. You lose Clay. Obviously, they've been in need of a secondary shot creator / scorer. This whole, we're going to go 12, 13 man deep is indicative of the fact that they don't have surefire options in their rotation. Right. They've been waiting for Kuminga to take that next step and be consistent. He has not been that guy yet. And so this was an obvious move. They're able to get Butler here. They don't have to part with Kuminga or Moody or Pods or Trace Jackson-Davis, so they can still usher in that youth movement and get them up to veteran status by the time, these stars are gone. So I think it's a worthwhile gamble for the Dubs to go ahead and do it. And once the Jimmy to Phoenix stuff all fell out, it was going to be in their favor where they can get a more, favorable deal done here. Where look, I like Andrew Wiggins when he's locked in, when he's focused. He's a good wing when he's focused. But that's not going to help you win a championship by itself. So I think it was a worthwhile gamble for Golden State.
Yeah, not right now with that group. I do love Wiggins' fit in Miami.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Playing the three with Hero obviously having the season he's having, and Bam and Jaime Jaquez. Bam, Jaquez, Wiggins, Hero, and then whoever you decide to put at that other perimeter spot. That's going to help Miami because Wiggins on his best day is a very good two-way player in this league. But the ceiling of Kuminga, being able to keep him, now being able to go Curry, Hield, Butler, Kuminga, Draymond, small ball. Obviously, they need Looney size at times. Jackson Davis, who you mentioned, has been a good contributor for them in spurts this season. And to your point, that 10, 11-man rotating door thing, that's when you have to hide your flaws. And you've got to get 2 or 3 minutes out of guys playing at 1,000% to see who can get hot.
Yeah.
And rinse and repeat. But the opposition, especially in the Western Conference, is too talented for that, and the Warriors knew that. So they had to make a move. Wiggins won a title there. He was a terrific player in that series. Obviously, he's had a lot of things going on in his life on and off the floor the last couple of years.
Right.
I think the breath of fresh air for him in Miami will be a good one for him. And ultimately, Jimmy Butler had to be moved, and there's probably no better place for him to go than to go play with Steph Curry and Draymond Green in Golden State.
Yeah, worthwhile gamble. I'm going to say Golden State for what they had to give up there without having to mortgage the future. I do believe that's a win. So we'll see how it pans out. And the West just got a little bit more loaded and a lot more interesting. So that is for the Dubs. Now, this one, as a Knicks fan, this one hurt, man. And that was DeAndre Hunter going from the Hawks to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They trade Karis LeVert, the minivan Georges Niang, and 2 second-round picks. And I believe there's I think there's a pick swap, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, that was a home run swing by Kobe Altman and the Cleveland Cavaliers. That one indicated to me, they said, listen, we're number 1 in the East. We're 41-10. We're not right there with Boston yet. But this move right here could potentially put them over the top. The front court is bigger. It's more physical. He's having the best year of his career coming off the bench with the Hawks at 19 points per game. That was a great move by the Cleveland Cavaliers. And as a Knicks fan, I'm jealous and I'm hating. I'm hating on it, man.
Yeah, I mean, we should talk about the Hawks because what was starting to become a promising season with that kind of revamped supporting cast around Trae Young, obviously with Jalen Johnson going down, they're no longer trying to compete for a playoff spot from my point of view with these moves that they made. For Cleveland, and watching the Celtics play the Cavs earlier this week and watching the impressive road win for the Celtics, the one Achilles heel that Cleveland has is, yes, they have great front court size. They have the dynamic backcourt. They have depth, but they don't have that dynamic athletic wing who can even pose a challenge to the Tatum Brown combo or the Anunoby Bridges combo, right? Now they do. And DeAndre Hunter, as you said, is a very, very capable player, having the best year of his career. Health has been a factor before. We can pull up the contract ramifications in a moment, but the positional fit, playing both sides of the basketball, going to the top team record-wise in the East to fill that need. I mean, as you said, great move by Kobe Altman. And Listen, it impacts the Celtics, obviously. It impacts the Knicks, obviously. Um, we'll get to what the Bucks did. It impacts them because of their change of that position as well. So Cleveland scores big here, and they're going for it. And as much as you're a Knicks guy and I'm a Celtics guy, this Cavs story is a great story this year. And I don't know if you were paying attention closely to the broadcast the other night. They talked a lot about Donovan Mitchell buying in to being okay with playing less minutes and having to do less to elevate those around him, which is better for the team. And Donovan has fully embraced that and become a tremendous leader. And now adding Hunter to the mix, the Cavs are the real deal. They are the real deal for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned Spider willing to do whatever it takes now to win this thing and sacrifice for the team. And Darius Garland said that as well. I was watching, I forget which game, just last week, and the Cavaliers had won the game, and Garland afterwards spoke on the fact that these two guys met in the offseason to hash things out and to figure out, hey, how do we make this thing work? Because, from the outside, everybody's so quick. Split these guys up. Split them up like you split up Tatum and Brown. But these guys said, no, let's come together, figure this thing out. And now this is the best they've looked in a number of years. Now you get a DeAndre Hunter here, a good premier two-way wing. That's a dangerous move right there for the rest of the East and for the league, man. If they stay healthy, that could be the that swing that can get them past the Celtics. So they just got a lot more interesting.
Yeah, one thing that's really interesting, and what I'm about to share goes for a number of teams in both conferences, right? The Knicks will be able to do this when Mitchell Robinson is back and is himself. The Celtics do this now. Cleveland does it potentially better than anybody. Milwaukee obviously does it as well. They can play two capable bigs on the floor at the same time, right? But they can also downsize and play small ball. So now Cleveland with Allen, Mobley, Hunter, Mitchell, Garland as their starting five, that's a big athletic lineup. But if they have to go small, Hunter can bump up to the four easily. You can play Mobley or Allen, whoever is required at the five, and then play your wings around them from there. So Cleveland adds not just more talent, they add more versatility, and they're one of those teams that can either play 4 out or 5 out at any time, or play two bigs at the same time. And that is becoming a necessity right now in the league in both conferences with a certain amount of the contenders, obviously starting Cleveland, Boston, and Milwaukee in the East.
Great point. Great point by you there. This one was a bit of a head scratcher. The Brandon Ingram sweepstakes are officially over. His name is coming about in trade rumors from last offseason. Where was he going to go? He's looking for the bag with New Orleans. New Orleans is not going to pay them. I think they're ultimately going to head to just destroying and rebuilding that thing. Zion could be the next one on the conveyor belt. But for the Raptors, I found it a puzzling move for the Raptors to make because, number one, I want to see how this thing fits with Scotty Barnes. RJ Barrett has, when he's healthy, he's had an up and down season just due to the random injuries, but him getting more usage with that team and the ball in his hands, he's been a better player. You have Emmanuel Quickly, another former Knick, who needs the ball in his hands as well. Can play off ball, but has shown to be productive with the ball in his hands. I'm with the Raptors also sending a first-round pick to New Orleans for this, and Ingram being a pending free agent, that one was a head-scratcher for me from Ujiri. I didn't see that one from Ujiri coming.
I saw him being moved, as most of us did, right? I'm very pro Brandon Ingram's talent, skill set, and potential. We can talk about what happened in New Orleans another time. Between the injury bug, committing to Zion, and just that thing just not gelling, and it's unfortunate because Willie Green, I think, is a terrific head coach. You thought they were set up to be a contender. I mean, you look at last season and the season prior, when that team was healthy, and especially with the emergence of Trey Murphy, like they were top 2 or 3 in the West both seasons when healthy, and then just the injuries, the bottom falls out. And a lot of people don't realize about Ingram, he's become a very good passer. I think his assists were up to around 6 assists a game this year when he was playing. So for me, it's a head scratcher because you're risking losing him. And as you said, Barnes, Barrett, quickly all need the ball, as does Ingram. Now, of obviously Quickly's not the same caliber of player as Barrett, Barnes, and Ingram. And if you're ranking those guys, to me it's between Barnes and Ingram who the best player is, but they do things a little bit differently on the floor. Now, athleticism, wingspan, versatility, they become a really, really tough matchup because of how Barrett, Ingram, and Barnes are, physically and offensively. Barnes obviously being a point forward, Ingram playing point forward in many ways, and Barrett, as you were saying before, really having a nice year before the injury. So to me, it's not worth the rental to give up the first round pick. Bruce Brown, unfortunately, just that guy went from championship team in Denver to the money in Indiana to ship to Toronto. Who knows where he's going to go next? I'd love him on the Celtics, but I don't think that's going to happen now that they added Torrey Craig about 2 hours ago. So there's no question about the talent. I think it's a steal if you keep him and he's part of your rebuild, because then you have two potential all-stars on that team. With Barrett, I think in the bucket of just, very good player continuing to evolve. So
Yeah.
puzzling from the contract perspective, but not from the talent perspective. Not at all.
Yeah, and so they do bring in Ingram. They did get PJ Tucker. He gets rerouted to Miami. They also got James Wiseman there, and sending out Bruce Brown. Davion Mitchell goes to Miami. So Miami, as you said, with Riley and those guys, they kind of stacked up on scrappy defenders to put around with Hero, to put with Bam, Kel'el Ware on the rise, Jaime Jaquez. So I do like how Miami got very scrappy around a great coach in Eric Spoelstra. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fare in the East. The Raptors did send Kelly Olynyk out, and the Pacers 2026 first-round pick, which is top 4 protected, as well as the Raptors 2 second-round picks in the future. So that one was definitely an interesting one. Here was another win. I thought the Los Angeles Lakers, we're going to get to the main event last, but one of the moves that they made as a result of the Doncic trade was getting Mark Williams. Because of the fact that Rob Pelinka did not surrender the 2031 first-round pick, they were able to keep that and go get a young stud center from the Charlotte Hornets in Mark Williams, trading away Dalton Knecht, who I like, the 31 pick, Cam Reddish, and they ultimately, Jalen Hood-Schifino was in the Dallas trade. But basically, Knecht, Reddish, the first-round pick, and I believe a pick swap. What did you think about Mark Williams heading over to the Lake Show, man?
I mean, aside from the view of the rivalry lens, it's a great move. I mean, you had to plug the front court hole. I've always liked what Jackson Hayes could be as a role-playing five-man, but he's not ready to step into the starting lineup for a team that wants to make a run now back to the Western Conference Finals. Now, Mark Williams doesn't have that experience either, but I think he's got a better skill set and a higher talent ceiling. So to get him both for the present, because LeBron only has so many years, and the future, it's a great move. I like Knecht. I think he's going to be a good player and have a successful career, but they had to fill the need. They had little time to do it. And, the names we heard first were Nick Claxton. We heard Robert Williams, who obviously has been in and out of the lineup with injuries since going to Portland and dating back to being with Boston. And we, of course, heard the name Clint Capella because Atlanta was very active and they've been rumored to want to move him. But great move for the Lakers. They fill a need. And, before the Luka trade, were they a top-tier team in the West? No, but they had won 9 of 10. LeBron had a brilliant Saturday night at Madison Square Garden. They sat in the 5th spot. We know how the standings in the West move every day. They were 2 out of 3 and 3 out of the play-in. So they couldn't stand pat. They had to do something, and a very good move for the Lakers to follow up on the Doncic Davis earth-shattering blockbuster, which I know we'll get to shortly.
Earth shattering. Staying in LA and down to Inglewood, you have a Clipper team who's playing very well in the West as well. And this trade deadline, turn Terrence Mann, Bones Highland, Kevin Porter Jr., PJ Tucker, Mo Bamba into Bogdanovic, Drew Eubanks. You get Patty Mills, Marshawn Beauchamp, and 3 second-round picks. I like the Bogdanovic pick and slotting him in with Harden, with Kawhi Leonard, who's looking great on his return. That Clipper team, man, I like him as a supporting castmate, and they're already playing good. Norman Powell playing at an all-star level. I do like that Bogdanovic pickup, man. Good veteran presence.
Well, think about this now, right? Zubats is a proven starting center in this league. Screen, roll, finish, rebound, rim run. That's his game, right? The entire rest of this team is going to be perimeter guys, but now you can put Harden, Powell, Kawhi, and Bogdanovic out there on the floor. You can't leave one of those guys open. So Zubats is going to continue to eat inside. If they want to go small ball, they'll spread the floor and take him out of the game. But Bogdanovic, the key with him, just like the key with Atlanta has been, is health. But he is a very capable player, and that guy is going to continue to get more and more open shots. He also helps them rest Kawhi,
right,
and limit his volume, so they are fresh for the playoffs. And I got to tell you, they're one of the best stories that not enough people are talking about this year in the league.
True.
Everyone, including myself, is like, there's no chance this team is a playoff team this year, especially with the question marks around Kawhi. I've always been a big Norman Powell fan, but I just didn't think they had enough, especially with the competition in the West. And between the job that they've done, obviously Ty Lue's a terrific head coach, and the way many of these guys have risen their games, to get Kawhi back and to add Bogdanovic, great move. Kevin Porter Jr. is somebody that obviously has had his issues off the floor.
Yeah.
You hate to see him go, and correct me if I'm wrong, he ended up in Milwaukee.
Porter, yes.
Which for him is a terrific environment to end up in, considering you have Doc there, you have Rondo there, Giannis, Dame, and we'll talk about the Bucks deal, I'm sure, in a little bit regarding Kuzma and Middleton. So Kevin Porter Jr. is extremely talented, and if he can just find the right fit and evolve, not the skill set necessarily, but as a professional, rooting for him. I want to see him have a successful career. That could be a really good environment for him. But for the Clippers, big win getting Bogdanovic for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you mentioned, the Bucks, and salute to everybody in the chat once again, man. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. CP the Franchise, my guy Eric Newman in the building. We are breaking down the 2025 action-packed NBA trade deadline. This is also a simulcast with the good people at KnicksFanTV. Salute to everybody there. Salute to everybody watching on Facebook, on the NBA Report, and on Twitter, X as well. So now this next segment is kind of apropos because it's kind of the segment about the top-heavy teams who are trying to figure out that depth play. And as you mentioned, the Milwaukee Bucks. Here you have it. You have Giannis, you have Dame, you have an injury-riddled Chris Middleton, who it was known that he was probably going to be on the block and playing his last days in Milwaukee. The minutes had been sporadic, and so at the production, they in turn flip him to the Washington Wizards, along with A.J. Johnson, a good young prospect. In return, you get Kyle Kuzma, who finally waved the white flag with the Wizards. Last year, they were begging him to go to Dallas. He said no. This year, he goes to the Bucks. Let's start there, man. What do you think of the Kuzma for Middleton swap?
I'll never understand why he didn't want to go to Dallas, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
He was a perfect fit.
Perfect.
For Milwaukee, it's kind of bittersweet, right? Like, you won the title with Holiday and Middleton there alongside Giannis, but Middleton really has not been the same player since. Injuries more so than his skills eroding are the cause of that. He was a great story. Nobody saw Chris Middleton coming to evolve to become an all-star and a champion.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he was a second round pick and got his career started with Detroit
Detroit.
before finding his way to Milwaukee. So, he always served before Dame got there as, you know, the big shot maker closer. Obviously, Giannis has big moments in the clutch, but Middleton, a um, top tier 3-point threat and a guy when healthy who could put the ball on the floor and create a little bit for himself. So the fact that Milwaukee is getting back a player of the caliber of Kuzma with Middleton being 34 years old and having this many injuries, this is a big victory for the Bucks. Obviously, they got to figure out the chemistry on the fly, but the way I look at it is you can start Kuzma at the three, and just like before, we were talking about teams that can play two bigs and also downsize effectively. Now, if they want to go real small with Giannis at the five, Kuzma can slide over and play the four, no problem. But he will also allow them to, give Giannis a couple of extra minutes rest every night, or give Dame a couple of minutes extra rest every night, because he can flat out score the basketball and he can limit their volume a bit more. He can defend the position pretty well. And now he's going back to a winning environment. Obviously, he was with the Lakers in 2020 when they won the title, then a much younger player. But I'm sure he's learned along the way that he'd rather be on a competitor. And, no offense to the Wizards and their fans, but that's just not a basketball culture or environment you want to be in right now when you have tasted winning and want to get back there. So, really good move for Milwaukee because they fill a position of need. They get something of value back for a player like Chris Middleton. So Kuzma's going to fit well.
Yeah, I actually agree. And I think a lot of the naysayers with this deal are looking from its recency bias, right? You see Kuzma as the leading guy with the Wizards. They're the worst team in the league. They've been that way over the last 2 years, and so it's easy to see like, this guy's not it. It's not it for the Bucks. But you put him in a winning environment with the number 5 seed team in the East, with Giannis and Dame leading the way, and Brook Lopez and Portis and those guys. Like, I think he can slide in and just fill a nice little role for them. Be versatile defensively, be versatile offensively. As you said, be able to showcase him with the second unit that's been desperate to find depth behind Giannis and Dame and find some scoring punch. Trent Jr. was brought in there. He's been kind of up and down, hasn't really been the guy who he used to be. I like it from an offensive firepower especially.
The pressure's off of him, as you said. He's at most the third option, right? But on any given night, if Brook is feeling it or has a mismatch or Bobby Portis gets into one of those zones, like, he's anywhere from the third to your fifth option every night. And again, he can start, but when Giannis leaves the game, he can then become an offensive focal point. He's a good enough shooter. He's got good size. When motivated, when locked in, he can defend multiple positions. I don't know what the naysayers are thinking. Again, you can't take what the role was in Washington and equivocate what the role is going to be in Milwaukee. It doesn't work that way. So, again, considering what they gave up and being able to get something of quality in terms of talent back, they get younger, and it's a good move for the Bucks.
Yeah, I agree. And hey, you take a flyer on a Kevin Porter Jr. Like you said, the off-court stuff hasn't really been a good look on his resume. But hey, with the talent that he can be, take a flyer. You're looking for depth. Hey, he doesn't have to play necessarily, but if you find some lightning in a bottle, and you're looking at a Cleveland team or a Boston team or even the Knicks, who you try to match firepower with. Take a flyer on it. If I'm the Bucks, that's all you have right now. Because
think about it this way. Think about it this way, right? Doc Rivers was a NBA very good point guard for over a decade.
Yeah,
played in some huge playoff games. He obviously has coached now going on 20 years. He's won a title. For the Doc Rivers haters out there, this is not about that. The guy has been in the trenches. He's a mentor to many, and he challenges players to raise their games. That's one. Number two, he gets to learn from watching Damian Lillard every single day be a professional. And Rajon Rondo is a great coach in the making, and he is going to take Kevin Porter Jr. under his wing if Kevin Porter Jr. is willing to listen, and he is going to impart him with wisdom that only Rajon Rondo can give him about what it takes to be a successful pro in this league. So, am I overvaluing that? Maybe, but the potential for Kevin Porter Jr. to now find his footing in the league, it's there with this move. He's just got to embrace it.
Yeah, true indeed, man. Now, what is going on in Phoenix, man? What is going on in Phoenix?
Hold on, let me have a sip of water.
Yeah, yes. They wanted
The desert is dry, my friend.
Yeah, they wanted
The
Jimmy.
desert is dry.
Then the Jimmy thing goes. Then okay, KD might be out the door. Like what? Bradley Beal's gonna stick around. They trade their 2031 pick for a less favorable 3 conditional first round picks, and then ultimately ship out their 26 pick with Yusuf Nurkic to go get Cody Martin and all these guys. I have no idea what Matt Ishbia is doing. Maybe Isaiah Thomas is still consulting with those guys. Maybe that's why it's going so bad over there. But what is going on with Phoenix, man?
I would be very interested in joining the Phoenix front office because I would like to know. Obviously, and it was one day maybe a month ago where we started to talk about, and I don't know if you've seen it on KG Certified. Every week, Kevin and Paul now we're having the biggest laughs on set talking about like who needs fresh air, right? So obviously, the Jimmy stuff was brewing all over the place. Bradley Beal, it just hasn't fit. His family's being heckled at games. Beal for Butler worked for a lot of reasons. The money worked. The skill sets and fits worked where Jimmy would thrive at being a number 3 guy next to Booker and Durant, where Beal as a number 3 guy and often playing out of position when him and Book were splitting the point guard duties was not good. Beal with Hero and Bam in Miami, I thought would have been a great fit. He can get back to being that scoring, playmaking 2. Tyler Hero's game has continued to evolve. Yes, there is some overlap there, but I thought that would have fit very well. It would have gotten him out of a negative situation in Phoenix to a great culture in Miami, obviously with Spoelstra and the rest of the crew there. But to Beal's credit, just as a professional and a father, he didn't want to uproot his family again and leave Phoenix. So he wasn't about to move on from his no trade clause. So the moment that wasn't going to happen, the Butler thing, unless a third team of substance was going to somehow get involved in the deal, that was done. From the Durant side, we heard rumors about, a Warriors reunion. Mm-hmm. I never thought it was a possibility. Now, part of some of the deals that were floated out there did involve Draymond Green ending up in Phoenix. Draymond Green is a Michigan State grad, of course, as is Suns owner Matt Ishbia. So there is a relationship there. But the moment that the moment that KD it leaked that he didn't want to go to Golden State, I mean, I've always thought it would have been interesting for KD to go back to Washington, where he's from, but not under this circumstances. Yeah. Pierce keeps talking about KD going to the Thunder and returning to OKC in a deal involving Chet Holmgren, which obviously would be good for both teams, but I don't see Oklahoma City disrupting any of this magical chemistry that they've created around this group. So that's not going to happen. And with the salary cap the way it is and the CBA going the way it's going, where else could Durant go?
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Well, I think because this kind of leads me to my team now, because the Knicks, obviously, they were very limited in terms of what they could have done at the deadline. They did trade Jericho Sims. They got Delon right back, kind of doing the Bucks a favor, get some cash, buy some hot dogs at MSG or something like. It was very light, type of trade. But then you have
you'll like him actually. You'll like Delon Wright
if he gets in.
I think he's a capable reserve guard on a good team. I
Yeah.
think if they trust him, he'll give you some good minutes. And obviously, the Knicks depth conversation is a different conversation. But
Yeah.
no, please continue. I mean, did you think there was a shot that the Knicks called Phoenix about Durant?
No, but what I'm getting at is that you do have some fans that are saying, this is why you don't get rid of all 5 first-round picks for a guy like Mikal Bridges, because KD's going to become available. Book will probably become. I mean, this whole thing in Phoenix is falling apart by the day, which we kind of figured was going to happen. Like, I didn't expect them to do anything, even moving from Chris Paul to Bradley Beal. That was just a Hail Mary throw to see what would work here with new ownership trying to fill seats. But, like, eventually this thing's going to fall apart. And so I think KD's going to be out of there. I don't think he signs an extension with them. There's so much smoke on him being traded from that team that I think that happens in the offseason. And then it's just a matter of time before Devin Booker is looking for a change of scenery. So I just think it's interesting. I'm very happy with Mikal Bridges here with the Knicks. But I think the fans, the naysayers do have a point there.
For sure. Phoenix started the year 9-1 with Durant in the lineup. And then he went down, and they have not recovered. And they added Tyus Jones to add a real point guard this season, knowing that experiment without having a true one last year didn't work. As much shooting as they had on the floor between Booker, Beal, Grayson Allen, Kevin Durant, it didn't work well for them, not to mention, as we've mentioned numerous times this evening, with how stacked the Western Conference is. So, I see your point on the Bridges thing. I find it very interesting, the uproar regarding draft picks, and they're all what ifs. You have no idea what those are going to turn into. And all bias aside, Brad Stevens has used first round picks to get win now role players to the Celtics that helped them win a championship. He put a first round pick in the trade for Derek White. He put a first round pick with Kemba Walker, I believe, to Oklahoma City to bring back Al Horford. Those were all huge additions. And I think we've gone a little bit crazy of overvaluing a future asset that we have no idea what it's going to be. This is a league where, yes, you have teams like the Thunder that are following this blueprint. It looks like the Rockets are following the blueprint with how Portland has been playing recently. They're following the blueprint. But this is a what have you done for me lately league. You got to win now. You got to hit attendance marks. You got to be competitive. And GMs and coaches, they're fighting for their jobs just like players are fighting for their jobs, opportunities, and salaries. So this overvaluing of draft assets, I think it's gone a little too far. And the Bridges trade, the Gobert trade, and what was the other one that all the networks were using to compare what the Mavericks didn't get in return? There was one more. You have all of these draft picks going. Oh, obviously the Shea trade that was for Paul George, right? And obviously that set up the Thunder in an incredible way. But are these things valuable? Can they lead to rebuilds? Can they lead to building great rosters? Yes, but there's so much what if around them. I think a lot of these assets have been overvalued, and I'm sure we'll talk about that when we talk about the Luka for AD.
Sure. And so now with the Knicks, they are looking at, number one, you're looking at an acquisition from within with the return of Mitchell Robinson. We'll see what happens when OG Anunoby comes back. I'm very interested to see how this Knicks defense takes a step forward. So I think I am looking forward to that with a healthy Mitchell Robinson here. But also I do still think that they need more wing depth. And I was looking at the buyout market. One player who was at the top of my list is now on your team, the Boston Celtics, who signed Torrey Craig, recently leaving the Chicago Bulls and heads over to the Celtics, just announced tonight. So Torrey Craig is off the list on the buyout market, man.
Am I going to get in a defensive stance and do foot fires right now in excitement about Torrey Craig? No, but I like Torrey Craig.
Yeah.
Torrey Craig has played winning basketball. Torrey Craig can defend multiple positions. Torrey Craig can make the open three. and he'll fit right into the Celtics culture. And honestly, as well as the bench has started to play in recent weeks, obviously Peyton Pritchard having a great year, but the bench wasn't the same at the beginning of the year. But Al Horford is playing better. Luke Cornett has had some really good games. Sam Hauser is now healthy, shooting the ball better. And as much as I hated to see Jaden Springer go, his contract was costing them even more money because of luxury tax. Torrey Craig is a great addition because Tatum, Brown, and yes, Holiday and White have the ability to guard bigger perimeter players, and Holiday will guard post players at time. But just to have Craig come in the game to lock up and give those guys, even if Tatum or Brown don't come out of the game, they don't have to have the assignment of guarding that best perimeter player on the other team. It's a good ad for the Celtics. So
Yeah.
glad we got him and you didn't.
Congratulations. And, for the Knicks fans in the chat asking why didn't we get him, dollars and cents and second aprons, the dreaded second apron. The Knicks right now, they are $533,000 close to that second apron. So they basically had to wait until February 28th, March 1st, when NBA vet minimum contracts are prorated enough to be able to afford someone like that. And so the Celtics are able to go in there, sweep him up. And another guy who the Knicks had in their G League in Westchester, Chuma Okeke, who was in the pros with the Orlando Magic, a wing player who I was looking at. He just signed today with the Philadelphia 76ers. So we might be down to slim pickings here. Maybe it's a TJ Warren who comes up here by the end of the month if he's still available. So we'll have to wait and see, man. But I think the Knicks, they desperately need wing depth here for this final stretch.
Agree, my friend. Agree. One other, obviously, this is comes from my Celtics lens, but Marcus Smart getting shipped to Washington.
Yeah.
The money doesn't work to bring him back to Boston right now, but I wonder if he is going to be on the buyout market, or if Washington is just going to sit down and say, "Hey, we're trying to rebuild here. We feel like you can be a great veteran to add to the mix to help these young guys." I don't know. Marcus must be really, not kicking himself. It's not his decision, but to go from where he was in Boston to being on a exciting, young contending team in Memphis, where if he could get healthy and play a role, he could really help them. And Memphis right now, I think, is playing the best basketball in the Western Conference. To now end up going to Washington, it's a cruel game, my friend. It's a cruel game. So hopefully Marcus gets to a contender. Even if he got to the Knicks, I would be happy. And Madison Square Garden would embrace Marcus Smart in a similar way that they fell in love with John Starks. That's the type of energy and tenacity he plays with. So hopefully Marcus ends up with a contender somewhere.
Yeah, Marcus on the move, man. And hey, how about the Aaron Fox gets to go home? He gets his wish with the San Antonio Spurs. What did you think about the Spurs getting that point guard to pair up with Wemby? I'm just looking at the final deal here. If I'm just pulling this up, hang on. I'm gonna just get this right. San Antonio. This is, hold on, pull it up. De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. They trade away, the City Sissoko trade was separate, but Trey Jones, Zach Collins, Chicago's 2025 first-round pick, Charlotte's 2025 first-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, Minnesota's 2031 first-round pick, and Chicago's 2025 second-round pick, along with Denver's 2028 second-round pick. De'Aaron Fox of San Antonio, man.
How many were there more 2031 picks traded this week than players? I feel like I've heard 2031 pick in every other deal.
Yeah.
There's two lenses to look at this through. One, the Spurs. Tremendous move. You accelerate the evolution of your team instantly. Are they going to make the playoffs this year? Probably not. But with De'Aaron Fox and Wembanyama, and you look at the successful pairings of talents around the league, whether it's having two wings or having a dynamic point guard, combo guard, and a big, like now they're there. And now they can plug in whatever the needs are around these guys and develop their players appropriately around Fox and Wemby for years to come. So, brilliant move by San Antonio. I don't know what's going on in Sacramento. To be honest, and self-promoting my work here a little bit, when I made the DeMarcus Cousins doc as executive producer on the project back in the Showtime days, and shout out to everybody that worked on that film. Shout out to Boogie. I doing my research, doing my interviews, interviewing Coach Malone about when he was fired, what they did with DeMarcus, what they did with other players. Now this, what happened with Coach Brown. I don't know what's going on there. Like 2 years ago, yes, they got knocked out in the first round. They had a tremendous year. Coach Brown was coach of the year. It took a Steph Curry 50-point masterpiece to beat them. You had Fox, Sabonis, Keegan Murray, Malik Monk, a talented team and a stacked West. They were playing very well after the change from Brown to Christie. Obviously, Fox said he didn't want to be there anymore. I'm sure we're going to learn about more of the reasons why. They end up getting Zach LaVine back, which is very interesting. Oh, and of course, I forgot to mention DeMar DeRozan.
DeRozan, yeah.
Still, a very capable scoring threat. So, is Malik Monk now, who I saw in a game last month, have 9 or 10 assists? Does Malik Monk take over the point guard duties? Does Zach LaVine play a little hybrid 1-2 with DeRozan and, of course, running the offense through Sabonis at the high post? We'll see, but, New Orleans being so promising with all that talent, Sacramento and the excitement around them with all that talent, I wonder what's going to happen next. I really hope they don't blow that thing up. I really hope they figure out just to make the right tweaks and to continue forward from there, but I don't know what you've heard about what was going wrong with Fox behind the scenes, but it's a shame the Fox-Sabonis pairing with the evolution of Monk, the addition of DeRozan. I thought they were going to potentially be one of those teams that, if they got the right draw come playoff time, could be in the Western Conference Finals. And now with this change and trying to figure out the chemistry and the standings the way they are in the West, I mean, they'll be lucky to hold on to a play-in spot at this point.
Yeah, hard to. I'm not sure we'll ever find out what truly went down there. But Fox keeps alluding to some level of dysfunction. We know there's certainly been dysfunction in terms of their instability at the top from front office. They've had several GMs in and out of there. Vladdy's been involved. He's not involved. Here comes Mike Brown. There goes Mike Brown after, a stellar head coaching debut where they had one of the best offenses in the league. And then all of a sudden he's shown the door just 2 years later. It's very strange. But for Fox, hey, good for him. He wanted to save his career and get out of there, go home to San Antonio, who right now I think has a nice mix of veterans along with their young players and building that around Wemby. They're building that infrastructure around him to make that push, kind of like what the Rockets did last year in terms of Brooks and Van Fleet and Jeff Green. Now they have Fox, who's obviously their preeminent point guard, but you still have CP3, you still have Harrison Barnes, you have the adults in the room, and you have Wemby, who's quickly developing into an MVP caliber player here, a two-way force. And so they did all that without having to give up Stephon Castle. The 3 first-round picks is really 2 because the 2025 Charlotte first-round pick is protected top 1 through 14. So that's not going to convey. So I thought that was a steal for San Antonio. Home run pick. You have good young players with Castle. I love Devin Vassell at the wing. Julian Champagnie, I like him. Sohan can be kind of that versatile player for them. So hey, I like this move for the Spurs, man. I like that for their future.
They keep all the young complements that they want to develop around Wemby, and they add an all-star level dynamic guard who has not continued evolving yet. They were already borderline must-watch TV simply because of Wemby. Now, I mean, the things that him and Fox are going to be able to do on the floor together, along with this supporting cast. I hope Coach Popovich can come back to the sideline and impart his wisdom on these guys, and obviously wishing him well. So a lot of fun we're about to see in San Antonio, and it'll be, whether it's this year sneaking in, next year on the road to the playoffs, it's going to be nice to have the Spurs back in contending mix with this team evolving in front of our eyes. It's going to be a good watch.
So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit that like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. CP the Franchise, Eric Newman in the building. We are recapping an action-packed 2025 NBA trade deadline. This is also a KnicksFanTV simulcast along with the NBA report. For my guys on KnicksFanTV, Eric is going to be staying on with us to preview the Knicks' big matchup on Saturday against the Boston Celtics. So stay tuned for that. Eric and Alex will be on the ones and twos in just a bit. But we got to close with this one, man. Luka Doncic, 80, the blockbuster of all blockbusters, to set this thing off. And this was a soundbite. I want to play this soundbite from former Golden State executive Bob Myers on the situation here, and then I want to hear you react to this and provide your input. This was Bob Myers today on NBA Today speaking on the Doncic fallout with Dallas. Here we go.
Why was it that Dallas decided that they were willing to part with Luka Doncic?
I don't have a good answer for that.
Yeah, you do.
You understand their thinking.
You have an,
just because you don't agree
I
with
know
that.
why. I know why.
What would they say to
I know.
that?
I know
Maybe
why
that.
they were frustrated with him. I don't know why they felt the need to trade him.
So they were
You
frustrated
do.
with
You
him
do.
because
they don't think he can get them where they want to go.
But it's because of his habits.
Yeah,
It
right.
has nothing to do with
Yeah,
talent.
right. And
a house divided against itself
that's
cannot
right.
stand.
And they know
How can I hold the other
Yeah,
15, 16 guys in this locker room accountable
and
if my best player come in at 270 and I can't hold you accountable?
that doesn't mean they're right, but that's why they did it.
I
That
like
doesn't
it.
mean they're
I like
right.
it. I like
But they know him better than we do.
you like it.
I like
They know him
it.
better
Yes,
than we do.
yes.
But they looked at him and said, 350 million, is that the number?
Yeah.
The summer.
350 million. And I know, I'm not saying this is what they're saying. I don't believe he can win us a championship. And they, not only Nico, the ownership weighed in. Jason Kidd, I don't know. They say he didn't know. I'm sure he had an idea.
I suspect Jason
Yeah,
Kidd
Jason Kidd
is aware.
has an idea of what's going on around there. He's the coach. And so, of the powers that be, they looked at each other and said, we don't think he can get us there. Again, I'm not saying that. That's what they're saying.
You know why we were.
What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, when this all went down on Saturday night, I said I got to write on this. There's so much here. So, I spent a lot of time putting a Substack together, and my Substack is Everything Basketball. So cheap plug that will remind everyone
Plug it up.
of at
Plug
the
it up.
end. But thinking about the ramifications of this, and that soundbite alone with a guy who, besides LeBron James, in the last 25 years, in the 2000s and to now, has had the best start to a career of any player, to a guy that led his team to the NBA Finals last year, but a guy who has proven time and time again he is not taking care of his body. He's not taking care of his responsibility in that aspect as a professional. And you have to look at this through two lenses. You have to look at it through the business lens, and you have to look at it through the on-court lens. Through the business lens, Mark Cuban is no longer the owner of this team that's making the basketball decisions. You now have owners who own the Sands Corporation. They're bottom line people.
Yeah.
And when it comes to making bottom line decisions, you got to make a choice between all of these question marks about the guy's habits, the guy's commitment, and paying him a supermax of 5 years, $350 million. That's just his contract. I didn't even do the math yet on what the luxury tax bill would be on top of paying him that money, because if you're paying him that money, you got to pay the other guy's money to remain a contender. Otherwise, there's no point in paying him and keeping him. So that's the business part of it. The on-court part of it is, and this is in my Substack piece. We were at preseason last year, and I say we. I was producing Headliners with Rachel Nichols, which was a part of Showtime Basketball and Showtime Sports. And we went to Dallas because we got time for their early media day because they were going overseas with Kyrie and with Luka. And both were very generous with their time. Had some interviews with them, and Luka looked like he was in really good shape to start the season. Now injuries happened.
This was last year. This was
last year.
Last year. Okay.
Last year. September 29th, 2023. Injuries happen. You don't practice a lot during the season. But you've got 82 games. You've got to keep yourself sharp. You've got to keep yourself lean. I've never seen a star player, and notice I don't say superstar player, and I'll tell you why in a moment. I've never seen a star player play themselves out of shape. You look at what he looked like by the time they won the Western Conference Finals and were set to face the Celtics. He wasn't in the same shape. He wasn't. His habits were not good. I'm not questioning Luka Doncic's character. I don't know him as a human being. I'm not calling him out that way. I'm just telling you what I saw. I was at Game 2 of the Finals. I was at Game 5 of the Finals. As a fan, it was unbelievable from a Celtics perspective. As a former coach and a basketball strategist, they attacked him every single possession because he is a liability defensively.
Yeah.
And in this microwave generation where we give these labels out and we give praise out for everything, I will never label a player in the NBA a superstar if they don't at least put in the effort to be a respectable player on both sides of the basketball. And to me, those are the two big things it came down to. Now, the other thing that is really interesting about this deal, and we were talking about draft picks so much with these other trades, right? Dallas wants to win now. That's what Nico Harrison said. That's what Jason Kidd has said. Whether Kidd knew about the deal, just like the soundbite said, we don't know. He seemed like he didn't, but we don't know. But Anthony Davis, and I've been an AD critic, and we know he spent a lot of time out of uniform with his own injuries. But Anthony Davis has come ready to play the last 2 seasons, and he has been a monster for the Lakers. So let me ask this question. If you don't want to get into the public dispute in the summer, and I'm not justifying the deal, I'm just laying out points. You don't want to have a public dispute in the summer about whether or not they're going to sign him, extend him, not. You're not blowing this thing up because you have all the other pieces that are ready to win now. So you're not trading him for 7 first-round picks, right? Is there another player in that Anthony Davis? To me, Anthony Davis is a tier 2 star. Is there another player in that tier 2 category that you could have gotten in a deal like this who fit the Mavericks perfectly for what they needed? And to me, the clear answer is no.
It's fascinating. I definitely can see that. I hear all that, especially with the owner of the Sands, and the name is slipping me. The patriarch passed away, and it's now his wife is running the show here.
Yeah,
it's very Adelson.
Yeah, that's one of the names.
I can see.
I'll pull up the other one in a minute.
Yeah, I can see that. With that being the bottom line, you also have people floating the conspiracy around that, they're haggling with Dallas to get the casino resort going there, and maybe they're trying to torpedo the team on this short window. Even if I can understand the conditioning was a thing, but even so, at 25 years old, are we saying that this was beyond repair here for a 25-year-old kid? You couldn't get Dirk Nowitzki in there. You couldn't get, you could even call LeBron James in the offseason like, hey, work with this guy. We'll pay you some money through Nike, through back channels. Like, you want to tell me that this was beyond repair here, that a 25-year-old couldn't get his act together and get in shape?
That's the unknown. Like how far down the road has it gone? I've heard different things. I'm not going to speculate.
Sure.
I'm not comfortable sharing something I heard the other day about what Luka does in the offseason in terms of whether he works out or doesn't work out. Generational talent, right? So when you talk about the conspiracy theories, and there have been some fun ones around the NBA for decades. Like the Lakers just landed a global star player who idolizes LeBron James and is now taking the franchise torch from him. It was supposed to be AD. Him and AD had 6 years together. They won a championship together. They're represented by Clutch together. They seem to be very close. It's gone from AD to Luka. That's wild to me. And the Lakers, to their credit, and whatever Jedi mind games Rob Pelinka was able to play on Nico Harrison. And I'm not questioning Nico Harrison. I know him a little bit. I don't know him well. Always had positive dealings with him back in the day when I was doing, Nike basketball clinics and stuff, and he was Kobe's marketing rep, and get to run into him over the years. But to put yourself out there like this, like his GM career is now on the line.
Put it on.
And the Dallas Mavericks, I'll say this. The Dallas Mavericks with this team right now, and I don't feel uncomfortable anymore saying if whenever it's regarding AD's health. But if AD is healthy, Kyrie keeps playing the way he's playing with that supporting cast, and AD going back to his natural position of the 4, I mean, the Mavericks should be a top-tier team in the West for the next 2 to 3 years, without a doubt.
I can see that.
Without a doubt.
I can see that.
And for them, it's a short-term move to be a contender while thinking they're avoiding a long-term mistake.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe there were no other phone calls made. It's hard to believe that you didn't try to drive the price up anymore. But I'm sticking with my point about a player of AD's caliber in that tier that fit them perfectly right now that would have been available. I don't know another one. If you look at the league, I don't know another one.
I get that 100%. Boston exposed them. They went right to him and destroyed him on both ends of the floor. I totally get that. To me, you got to get at least the second first round pick. You had multiple reports. Kurt Goldsberry with The Ringer. My guy Fred Katz, along with a few others, did a
shout out Fred Katz.
Shout out my guy Fred Katz, man, with The Athletic.
What up, Freddie?
Both reports saying that Nico he pitched for the 2 firsts, and that Pelinka pushed back, saying that there was too much risk, and another risk that Luka wouldn't re-sign with the Lakers. You want to tell me a 25-year-old Luka Doncic, and you're Nico Harrison, and you're going to believe that there's a risk that he's not going to sign with the Lakers? Where's he going to go? The Charlotte Hornets? This is the Lakers.
Yeah.
There's not a shot in hell he's leaving that place.
No. LA is going to embrace him in a way that is unimaginable. And for the Warriors and the Lakers to re-enter the contender conversations. Now, listen, a lot needs to go right for the Warriors and Lakers to be true contenders this year. But to have them both back in the spotlight this week because of the moves they've made, and for the Lakers to set up the generational passing of the torch now, Luka gets to learn from LeBron James. He's going to walk into that weight room with him. They're going to do film work together. They're going to be on the practice court together. Man, I mean, you talk about take the fan thing out of it, right? Take Lakers Celtics out of it. Take the humor out of the fact that I'm a New Yorker who's a diehard Celtics fan that now lives in LA. The basketball purity and the love of the game aspect of this. I mean, this is incredible. It's incredible. And for the Lakers are already a global sports brand. Think about how that's elevated now even more. It's truly remarkable. I still don't feel like it really happened, but
Crazy.
It's crazy. And they make the move to get Mark Williams, and I'm sure they'll be active at the buyout market. So just like Dallas's run last year to the finals was, yes, they made those deadline moves to get Gafford, PJ Washington, those tweaks, but it was all about the draw that they got. The Lakers are going to be that team this year. They get that right draw, It's listen. The T-shirt I'm wearing. That's what we want to see,
fact,
right? Like we all want to see that, and hopefully the Celtics and the Knicks see each other this year in the Eastern Conference playoffs, and you and I can have some appropriate words at either garden. But it sets that up again, and we know that's what the league wants, right? So again, there's so many fun layers here. You hope the league. And I'm not saying they did, but you hope the league had nothing to do with this except approve the deal, right?
Yeah, well, David Stern was not approving that. David Stern would be like, this is not happening. Sorry. So get back to the drawing board. No way.
The spirit of David Stern, always looming at the deadline. I wonder what he would have said. But listen, AD's AD's a great player, but is he considered a generational talent anymore? No, and he's almost 32, and Luka's almost 26. That's 6 years difference. Both have a lot of miles on the tires, though. Luka started playing professionally as a teenager.
True. That's true.
AD is part of the AAU generation that were playing 5 to 8 games a weekend. Obviously, he didn't stay in college very long, but he's battled injuries. He's carried teams, but again, the fit in Dallas, from a basketball perspective right now, they'll be elevated in the short term. Obviously, Luka hasn't played since Christmas. But it's the most surprising, head-scratching thing we've ever seen as far as an NBA trade goes because of how it was done. And we'll probably learn more as we go on. But there's never a dull moment. And to be able to mute Super Bowl coverage leading into the Super Bowl takes a lot. And this deal, along with the floodgates that followed in terms of the trades, it did that this week.
It was action-packed indeed, man. Well, listen, man, we had a great show breaking it all down. Great job closing this thing out. For the people on the KnicksFanTV side, Eric is sticking around with us. Our Game of the Week preview, Knicks versus Celtics, is coming right up, hosted by Al Trataros, and Eric Newman will be on the other side as well. Eric, just let the people know, once again, plug the blog where they could read the full write-up on your analysis of the Luka and AD trade.
I appreciate that. Yes. So my Substack is Everything Basketball. Check that out. That's where I'll be sharing my thoughts and opinions about the NBA. I'll be sharing episodes there as well of my podcast with the great Balbito Garcia at B-Ball Radio. Follow me on Instagram at Eric W. Newman, EricWnewman. Not on X much as I used to be, but trying to build the audience on Substack, and of course you're on the podcast. So great to be on with you, my friend, and I look forward to doing this again real soon. Knicks Celtics, you can't beat it. Let's go.
Let's go. So KFTV, we'll see you on the other side. NBA Report, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.